Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his warship and looked at the screen showing Earth. What he saw made his heart break. The planet that gave birth to all humans was now nothing but burned rock and poison clouds. 3 months ago, the aliens called the Kethver had attacked without warning. They came from deep space with massive ships and weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. The attack lasted only 1 day, but it killed 7 billion people. Jake remembered that terrible morning when the first reports came in. The alien ships appeared suddenly over major cities. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, all turned to ash and fire within hours. The defense fleets tried to fight back, but the alien weapons were too strong. Human ships exploded like toys against the Kethver war machines. Captain Lisa Rodriguez walked up to Jake with a datapad in her hands. Her face was pale and tired. She had not slept much since the attack. "Sir, I have the final numbers from the evacuation ships. We saved 2 million people. The rest are gone." Jake closed his eyes and felt the weight of those numbers. 2 million saved out of 7 billion. The evacuation ships had tried their best, but there was no time. The aliens had struck too fast and too hard. Most people never even knew what hit them. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of machines. Everyone there had lost someone on Earth. Family, friends, lovers, all dead because of the Kethver. Jake had lost his wife and 2 children. They were visiting his wife's parents in Chicago when the aliens came. The city was one of the first to burn. Commander Alex Turner entered the bridge carrying reports from across human space. His uniform was clean, but his eyes showed the same pain as everyone else. "Admiral, the fleet is ready. We have ships from every human world, every company, every group that can fight. 900,000 warships, sir." "The biggest fleet in history," Jake nodded slowly. In 3 months, humanity had done something impossible. Every human colony had sent ships. Rich worlds and poor worlds, big corporations and small traders, military fleets and civilian ships turned into weapons of war. They all came together for one purpose: to make the Kethver pay for what they did to Earth. The Kethver probably thought destroying Earth would break human spirit. They were wrong. It made humans angry in a way that scared even themselves. Every human alive wanted revenge. They wanted to hurt the aliens like the aliens had hurt them. Dr. Elena Martinez sat at her station reading files about the Kethver Empire. She was the best alien expert in the human fleet, but even she did not know much about their enemy. The Kethver were old, maybe thousands of years old, as a space-traveling people. They ruled over 1,000 worlds and had technology better than anything humans could build. "What do we know about their homeworld?" Jake asked Elena. Elena looked up from her screen. "It's called Kethver Prime, about 8 months away through hyperspace. The planet has 5 billion Kethver living on it. Their military is strong, but they've never fought an enemy like us before." "What makes us different?" Lisa asked. Elena was quiet for a moment. "Most wars in space are about territory or resources. This war is about something else. We don't want their planets or their stuff. We want them all dead. Every single one of them. That kind of hate makes people do crazy things." Jake walked to the big window that showed space outside. He could see other human ships stretching out in all directions. Massive battleships with guns that could crack moons. Fast destroyers built for hit-and-run attacks. Huge carriers full of fighters and bombers. Supply ships carrying food, fuel, and spare parts for a war that might last years. "Sir," Alex said, "the colony representatives want to know about rules of engagement. Some of them are asking about civilians." Jake turned around. His face was hard as stone. "There are no Kethver civilians. They all supported the attack on Earth. They all celebrated when our world burned. We show them the same mercy they showed us." The bridge crew looked uncomfortable, but no one argued. Everyone there had seen the alien broadcasts after Earth's destruction. The Kethver had been happy about their victory. They called humans weak and stupid. They said Earth's destruction was just the beginning. Communications officer Amy Patterson spoke up from her station. Admiral, we're getting messages from ships across the fleet. They're all asking the same thing. When do we leave? Jake smiled. For the first time in months, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator thinking about hunting. Send a message to all ships. We leave in 6 hours. Destination: Kethver Prime Mission. Total destruction of the Kethver Empire. As the crew prepared for departure, Jake looked at Earth one last time. The dead world slowly turned in space, still beautiful from far away despite all the damage. He made a promise to every soul that died there. The Kethver would pay. Every single one of them would pay. The 900,000 ships of humanities. Revenge fleet began to move. They formed up in attack groups and prepared their hyperspace engines. Soon they would jump to faster-than-light speed and begin the long journey to enemy space. When they arrived, the Kethver would learn what happened. When someone hurt humanity's home, the jump to hyperspace felt like being pulled through a tunnel of stars. Captain Steve Collins held onto his command chair as his ship, the UES Warrior, entered the strange space between normal space and somewhere else. Around him, 900,000 other human ships made the same jump at the same time. Steve commanded one of the big carrier groups in the fleet. His ship carried 50,000 Marines and 3,000 fighter craft. The Warrior was as long as a city and had enough firepower to destroy small moons. But even his massive ship looked tiny next to some of the other vessels in the fleet. The journey to Kethver Prime would take 8 months. 8 months of traveling through hyperspace, where time moved differently and space looked like a painting made of light and darkness. Steve had made hyperspace jumps before, but never with so many ships at once. The energy from all those hyperspace engines made strange patterns in the void around them. Lieutenant Amy Patterson sat at the communications station, listening to radio chatter from across the fleet. The human armada was huge beyond belief. Ships from the rich core worlds flew next to beat-up freighters from the outer colonies. Corporate military vessels traveled alongside pirate ships that had joined the fight. Everyone was united by the same burning need for revenge. "Captain," Amy said, "I'm getting reports from the other ship groups. The New Texas Battle Group has 200,000 ships. The Jupiter Mining Fleet brought their entire corporate navy, 150,000 vessels. Even the independent traders formed up their own battle group." Steve nodded as he looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed human ships stretching out for millions of miles in every direction. Each dot represented hundreds or thousands of people who had lost someone on Earth. Each dot carried weapons meant to kill. KTH single quotes VAR. Engineer Danny Brooks worked in the engine room deep inside the Warrior. The hyperspace engines were pushed beyond safe limits, but Danny kept them running anyway. Every human ship in the fleet was doing the same thing, risking engine failure to get to Kethver Prime faster. They all wanted to reach the aliens before the Kethver could prepare better defenses. "The engines are running hot," Danny told his crew. "But we can keep this speed for another month before we need to slow down." His assistant, a young woman named Kelly James, checked the fuel readings. "We have enough fuel to make it to Kethver space, but not much extra for fighting." Danny wiped sweat from his face. The engine room was always hot, but pushing the engines this hard made it even worse. "Don't worry about fuel for fighting. Admiral Morrison says we only need enough fuel to get there. After that, either we win or we all die trying." General Paul Watson reviewed the invasion plans in his quarters aboard the command ship. The strategy was simple but brutal. Human ships would attack in waves, never stopping, never retreating. The first wave would hit the outer defenses and probably be destroyed. The second wave would hit harder. The third wave would break through. Wave after wave until nothing was left of the Kethver military. Paul had studied every battle the Kethver had ever fought. They were good soldiers and smart tacticians, but they had never faced an enemy willing to lose 10 ships to destroy one. Of theirs, they had never fought people who wanted revenge more than they wanted to live. The general's aide, Lieutenant Mark Davis, brought him reports from the troop ships. "Sir, morale is high across all units. The Marines are ready to fight. The fighter pilots are asking when they can launch attacks. Everyone wants to hit the aliens as soon as possible. Pol smiled grimly. Good, we'll need that fighting spirit when we reach HFY Prime. The aliens won't give up their homeworld easily. Navigator Kelly James worked on the bridge of a fast scout ship called the UES Hunter. Her job was to plot the course through dangerous space between human territory and HFY territory. The route would take them through several star systems controlled by other alien species, but most of those aliens were too scared to interfere with such a huge human fleet. Captain, Kelly said to her commanding officer, I'm picking up HFY. Patrol ships in the Rigel system. Looks like they're trying to set up an ambush. Captain Ben Foster looked at the tactical display. 20 HFY ships waited in the asteroid belt around Rigel. They probably thought they could hit part of the human fleet and slow it down. They were wrong. Send a message to Admiral Morrison, Ben ordered. Tell him we have contact with enemy. Forces, request permission to engage? The answer came back quickly. All ships, attack formation Delta, destroy all enemy vessels. No survivors. The human fleet changed course slightly and headed for the HFY patrol. 20 alien ships against 900,000 human vessels was not a fair fight. The HFY ships fired their weapons, but they might as well have been throwing rocks at a mountain. Human plasma cannons and missile launchers turned the alien patrol into floating scrap metal in less than 10 minutes. Similar battles happened throughout the journey. Small HFY forces tried to slow down or damage the human fleet, but they were like insects trying to stop a stampede. The human armada swept them aside and kept moving toward its target. Dr. Sarah Kim worked in the medical bay of one of the hospital ships. She treated wounded from the small battles and tried to keep everyone healthy during the long journey. But her real job would start when they reached HFY Prime. The invasion would cost many human lives, and Sarah would need to save as many as possible. How many casualties are we expecting? Asked her assistant, Nurse Linda Walsh. Sarah looked at the invasion projections. The estimates say we might lose half our ships taking the planet, maybe more. The HFY won't surrender easily. Linda was quiet for a moment. Do you think it's worth it? All these people dying for revenge? Sarah thought about her brother, who died when the aliens destroyed Earth. The HFY started this war when they killed 7 billion innocent people. We're going to finish it. As the months passed, the human fleet grew closer to its destination. Ship captains drilled their crews. Marines cleaned their weapons. Fighter pilots practiced attack runs. Everyone prepared for the biggest battle in human history. Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the stars through hyperspace. Soon they would drop back into normal space near HFY Prime. Soon the aliens would pay for what they did to Earth. The journey was almost over, but the real war was about to begin. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace like thunder breaking across the sky. 900,000 ships appeared at the edge of the HFY system in a display of force that had never been seen before in the galaxy. Admiral Morrison expected to find orbital defense stations, massive battle fleets, and desperate aliens preparing for their final fight. Instead, he found something that made no sense at all. Commander Rick Davis stared at his sensor screen and blinked several times, thinking his equipment was broken. Admiral, you need to see this right now. The HFY fleet is here, but they're not in battle formation. It looks like they're arranged in some kind of pattern. Morrison walked over to the main display screen and felt ice form in his stomach. Hundreds of alien ships floated in space around HFY Prime, but they were not preparing to fight. Their weapons were powered down. Their shields were lowered. The ships were arranged in neat rows and circles like they were putting on some kind of show. What are they doing? Morrison asked, but no one had an answer. Captain Nancy Foster worked at the intelligence station, trying to understand what the aliens were planning. Sir, I'm scanning their communications. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, but it's not in their language. It's in English. Perfect English. Morrison felt his blood turn cold. The HFY had never learned human languages before. They had always used translation computers when they talked to other species. Why were they speaking English now? Put it on the main speakers, Morrison ordered. The voice that came through the ship's communication system was beautiful and sad at the same time. It sounded almost human, but there was something different about it. Something that made everyone on the bridge feel strange. "Greetings, children of Earth," the voice said. "We have been waiting for you. We welcome you home." Science Officer Carlos Wong looked up from his instruments with confusion written all over his face. "Admiral, this doesn't make sense. My sensors are picking up energy readings from those ships, but they're not HFY energy signatures. They're reading as human technology, but that's impossible." Morrison grabbed the communication panel. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Human Fleet. Identify yourselves. Why are you speaking our language?" The response came immediately. "We are your family, Admiral Morrison. We are what you are, but not what you think you are. Please come closer, there is much to explain." The alien ships began to change before their eyes. The dark, angular hulls that looked like HFY designs started to shift and flow like liquid metal. Slowly, the ships took on new shapes, human shapes. They looked like human warships, but more advanced than anything in Morrison's fleet. Lieutenant Tom Wilson monitored the tactical systems and reported what his computers were telling him. "Sir, those ships are definitely changing shape. The hull composition is shifting. The energy patterns are becoming more and more like our own technology." Morrison had fought in space battles for 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Ships did not just change shape. Aliens did not speak perfect English, and enemies certainly did not welcome their attackers home. "All ships maintain current position," Morrison broadcast to his fleet. "Do not fire unless fired upon. I repeat, hold your fire." Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood next to Morrison and whispered, "Sir, what if this is some kind of trap? What if they're trying to confuse us before they attack?" Morrison considered this possibility, but something deep in his gut told him this was not a trap. This was something else entirely. Something impossible. The largest of the transformed ships moved closer to the human fleet. As it approached, everyone could see that it was definitely built with human technology, but it was far more advanced than anything they had ever seen. The hull was smooth and elegant. The weapons were unlike anything in human design books. The engines left no exhaust trail but moved the massive ship as easily as a fighter craft. Dr. Elena Martinez ran scans on the approaching vessel and got results that made her question her own sanity. "Admiral, that ship is definitely human-built, but the technology is thousands of years more advanced than ours. The materials, the energy systems, the weapon configurations, it's all human, but from a time far in our future." Morrison felt like the universe was playing a joke on him. That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for 300 years. We don't have technology like that. Elena looked at her readings again. "Sir, I'm also detecting life signs aboard that ship." "They're human life signs. But the readings show genetic patterns that suggest these humans are descended from our current population, but with thousands of years of evolution and genetic improvements." The straying ship stopped just outside weapons range of the human fleet. Morrison could see it clearly now through the main viewing screen. It was beautiful in a way that human ships rarely were. Where human vessels were built for war and function, this ship looked like it was built by people who had moved beyond the need for ugly, brutal weapons. A new voice came over the communication system. This one was clearly female and definitely human, though there was something about the accent that Morrison could not place. "Admiral Morrison, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan. I command this vessel and this fleet. We are human, like you, but we are not from your time. We are your descendants, sent back from the future to meet you at this moment." Morrison's mind tried to process what he was hearing. Time travel was theoretical at best. Most scientists said it was impossible. But here was a ship that looked like advanced human technology and a person claiming to be from the future. "Prove it," Morrison said. "If you're really human, prove it." The response came quickly. "Admiral Jake Morrison, born in New Angeles Colony, son of Robert Morrison and Helen Morrison. You lost your wife Martha and children, David and Susan, when Earth was destroyed. Your service record shows 47 successful battles against pirates and hostile aliens. You have a scar on your left shoulder from a laser burn you received during the Battle of Proxima Station. Morrison touched his left shoulder where the old scar was hidden under his uniform. No alien could know those details about his life. Only humans would have access to that information. Admiral Sullivan, Morrison said carefully, if you're really from the future, then you know why we're here. You know what the Kethver did to Earth? There was a long pause before Sullivan answered. When she spoke again, her voice was filled with sadness. Yes, Admiral Morrison. We know exactly why you're here. We know about Earth's destruction. We know about the 7 billion people who died. We know about your quest for revenge against the Kethver Empire. Morrison waited for more explanation, but none came. Then you understand why we must destroy them. Admiral, Sullivan said softly, there is something you need to know. Something that will change everything you believe about this war, about Earth's destruction, and about the Kethver Empire. Morrison felt his heart start beating faster. What are you talking about? Sullivan's voice was barely above a whisper when she answered. The Kethver Empire never existed, Admiral. It was U.S., it was always us. Admiral Morrison felt like someone had hit him in the chest with a hammer. The words from Admiral Sullivan made no sense, but something deep inside him knew they were true. The Kethver Empire never existed, it was humans all along. That's impossible, Morrison said, but his voice was weak. We saw them. We fought them. They destroyed Earth. A figure began to appear on the bridge of Morrison's ship. It was a hologram, but so real that it looked like a person was actually standing there. The woman who appeared was definitely human, but she looked different from any human Morrison had ever seen. Her eyes were older than her face, like she had lived for centuries. Her uniform was clearly human military, but the design was unlike anything in current use. I am Admiral Kate Sullivan, the woman said. I come from a timeline 800 years in your future. In our time, humanity has spread across the galaxy and learned to control time itself. We have been watching your timeline, waiting for this moment. Captain Tony Clark from the science vessel Discovery had been listening to the conversation and finally spoke up. Admiral Sullivan, you said the Kethver Empire never existed, but we have recordings of their attacks. We have wreckage from their ships? We have bodies of their soldiers, Sullivan nodded sadly. Yes, you do. But all of those things were created by us. The ships were our ships disguised with holographic projectors. The soldiers were humans in alien costumes. The attacks were real, but they were carried out by time travelers from your future. Morrison's legs felt weak. He sat down in his command chair and tried to understand what he was hearing. Why? Why would future humans attack? Present humans? Because it was necessary, Sullivan said. In our original timeline, Earth was never attacked. Humanity grew slowly, spreading to other worlds but never truly uniting. We remained divided by politics, religion, and greed for thousands of years. We never reached our full potential. Dr. Elena Martinez stepped forward. You're saying you destroyed Earth to change history? Sullivan's expression became even more sad. Not destroyed? We will explain that shortly. But yes, we created the appearance of Earth's destruction to force humanity to evolve. The attack on Earth was designed to unite all human factions under a single purpose. It worked exactly as we planned. Commander Beth Howard had been quiet, but now she spoke up with anger in her voice. 7 billion people died because of your plan. How can you call that necessary? Sullivan held up her hand. Please, let me explain everything before you judge us. The story is more complex than you know. Morrison looked around his bridge at his officers. They all looked as confused and angry as he felt. But they needed to hear the full truth before they decided what to do. Go ahead, Morrison said. Explain. Sullivan walked to the center of the bridge, even though she was just a hologram. In our timeline, we discovered how to travel through time about 200 years ago. We began studying different possible futures for humanity. We saw timelines where humans destroyed themselves in wars. We saw futures where humanity never left Earth. We saw possibilities where other aliens conquered us because we were too divided to fight back. But we also saw one timeline where humanity became something magnificent. A timeline where humans united completely and became the most powerful species in the galaxy. In that timeline, humans learned to control time, space, and even reality itself. Captain Lisa Rodriguez asked, "What made that timeline different from the others?" "A great tragedy that forced humanity to work together," Sullivan answered. "In that timeline, Earth was attacked by aliens and 7 billion people died. The survivors became so united by their grief and anger that they put aside all their differences. They became one people with one purpose." Morrison felt sick to his stomach. "So you decided to create that tragedy yourselves?" "Yes," Sullivan said simply. "We sent teams back in time to your era. We created the Kethver Empire. We built the ships, trained the soldiers, and carried out the attack on Earth. We did it because we knew it was the only way to save humanity from 1,000 different worse futures." Engineer Danny Brooks had been listening from his station and finally spoke up. "But people died. Real people with real families." Sullivan smiled for the first time since appearing on the bridge. "That brings me to the most important part of our plan. The 7 billion people who died on Earth are not actually dead." The bridge became completely silent. Morrison could hear his own heartbeat. "What do you mean?" Morrison asked. "At the exact moment of the attack, we used temporal displacement technology to transport every person on Earth to a parallel timeline. They are alive and well in a version of Earth that exists in our time period. They have been living there for months, thinking they were evacuated during the attack." Dr. Patricia Lewis, the fleet's temporal physicist, had been studying her instruments. "The energy readings I'm detecting from your ship suggest you have technology that could manipulate space-time on that scale." "It's theoretically possible," Sullivan nodded. "Every person you think died on Earth is alive. Your families, your friends, everyone. They are waiting for you in our timeline if you choose to join us there." Morrison felt tears forming in his eyes. His wife, Martha, and his children, David and Susan, were alive. The 7 billion people he thought he had failed to protect were safe. "Why didn't you tell us this from the beginning?" Morrison asked. "Because you needed to experience the grief and anger," Sullivan explained. "You needed to feel the pain of loss. Those emotions were necessary to forge the unity we saw in the successful timeline. If you had known your loved ones were safe, you would not have felt the same driving need for revenge." Captain Matt Johnson from the Medical Corps asked, "So this entire war was fake?" "The war was real," Sullivan said. "Your emotions were real, your unity was real. The 900,000 ships you brought here are real. The only thing that was fake was your enemy." Morrison looked at the tactical display showing his massive fleet. Ships from every human world, every corporation, every political faction, all working together for the first time in human history. "What happens now?" Morrison asked. Sullivan's expression became serious. "Now you choose. You can return to your timeline with the knowledge of what really happened. You can use that knowledge to guide humanity toward the same unity you achieved, but through peaceful means. Or you can come with us to our timeline, where your loved ones are waiting and where humanity has already become everything it can be." Morrison looked around his bridge at his officers. They all looked back at him, waiting for his decision. Outside, 900,000 ships waited for orders. The greatest military force in human history waited to learn what their mission would become now that they knew the truth. The man who had come to destroy humanity's enemies discovered that humanity's greatest enemy had always been itself. And now he had to decide what humanity would become next. The truth hit the human fleet like a wave crashing against a cliff. 900,000 warships that had traveled across the galaxy for revenge now faced their own descendants from the future. The enemy they had come to destroy had never existed. At all. Admiral Morrison sat in his command chair and tried to process what Admiral Sullivan had told them. Every Kethver soldier they thought they had fought was actually a human in disguise. Every alien ship they had destroyed was built by future humans. The entire war had been an elaborate test designed to unite humanity. You're telling me that my wife and children are alive? Morrison asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Sullivan's hologram nodded. Martha Morrison, age 42, brown hair, green eyes. She works as a teacher on New Angeles Colony. David Morrison, age 16, wants to be a pilot like his father. Susan Morrison, age 12, loves to read books about ancient Earth history. They are all safe in our timeline, along with everyone else you thought you had lost. Morrison felt tears running down his face. For 8 months, he had carried the guilt of failing to protect Earth. For 8 months, he had lived with the pain of losing his family. Now he learned it had all been part of a plan to save humanity from itself. Captain Matt Johnson spoke up from his station. How do we know you're telling the truth? How do we know this isn't just another trick? Sullivan gestured toward the main viewing screen. Look outside, Captain Johnson. What do you see? Johnson looked at the screen showing space around them. The Kethver ships were still changing shape, transforming from alien designs into clearly human vessels, but now something else was happening. The space around them was starting to shimmer like heat waves on a hot day. What's happening out there? Commander Lisa Kim asked. We are bringing your real destination into this timeline, Sullivan explained. Behold, the Earth that never died. The shimmering grew brighter, and then something impossible appeared in space near them. It was Earth, but not the burned and poisoned world they had left behind. This Earth was green and blue and beautiful, with white clouds swirling around continents full of life. Dr. Sarah Martinez ran scans on her instruments and got readings that amazed her. Admiral, that planet is showing massive human life signs. Billions of people. The atmosphere is perfect. There's no radiation, no damage from weapons. It's exactly like Earth was before the attack. Sullivan smiled. This is the Earth where we transported your people during the attack. They have been living here for the past 8 months, building new cities and new lives. They believe they were evacuated during the final battle for Earth. They don't know about the deception. Engineer Sam Roberts looked up from his console. Sir, I'm getting communication signals from the planet. It's definitely human radio traffic. News broadcasts, commercial transmissions, personal messages. There are people down there. Morrison stood up and walked to the viewing screen. He pressed his hand against the transparent metal and stared at the planet that looked exactly like the home he remembered. Can I talk to them? Of course, Sullivan said. But first, you need to understand your choices. You can take your fleet back to your own timeline. You can return to your colonies and tell them what really happened. You can guide humanity toward unity through peaceful means instead of through shared tragedy. It will take longer, but it can be done. Or, Morrison asked, or you can stay here with us. Your families are waiting for you. Your lost loved ones are alive and well. You can join the humanity that has already achieved everything your species is capable of becoming. Captain Tony Clark asked, what has humanity become in your timeline? Sullivan's expression became proud. We control time itself. We can travel to any moment in history. We have colonies in other dimensions. We have learned to reshape reality with our thoughts. Death is optional for us. War is extinct. Poverty and hunger no longer exist. We have become everything that intelligent life can become. Lieutenant Amy Patterson had been monitoring communications across the fleet. Admiral, I'm getting messages from ship captains throughout the fleet. They all want to know what our orders are. Some of them are asking if they can visit the planet to look for their families. Morrison looked around his bridge at his officers. These people had followed him across the galaxy, ready to die for revenge. Now they had to decide what to do with the rest of their lives. Admiral Sullivan, Morrison said, if we choose to stay, what happens to our timeline? What happens to the colonies we left behind? Sullivan was quiet for a moment. That timeline will continue without you, but it will be a lesser timeline. Without the unity you achieve through shared grief, humanity will remain divided. They will face other challenges in the future that they might not survive. Morrison felt the weight of that decision. If he stayed, he would be with his family. Again, but he would be abandoning the billions of humans in his own time who still needed to learn the lessons his fleet had learned. "Commander," Rick Davis spoke up. "Sir, what if we split up? What if some of us go back and some of us stay?" Sullivan nodded. "That is possible. Each person can choose their own path. But remember, if you return to your timeline, you will carry the knowledge of what really happened. You will know that unity is possible. You will know that humanity can become something greater than what it is." Morrison thought about the 900,000 ships that had followed him here. Each ship carried people who had lost someone on Earth. Each person would have to make their own choice about the future. "I want to talk to my wife," Morrison said suddenly. Sullivan smiled. "Of course. We can establish communication with Earth." Immediately, the main screen changed to show a communication channel opening. After a few seconds, a familiar face appeared on the screen. It was Martha Morrison, Morrison's wife, alive and well and looking exactly as he remembered her. "Jake?" Martha said, her voice filled with surprise and joy. "Jake, is that really you? We heard that a huge fleet was coming, but we didn't know you were leading it." Morrison felt his heart breaking and healing at the same time. "Martha, I thought you were dead. I thought I had lost you and the children forever." Martha looked confused. "Dead? What are you talking about? We were evacuated from Earth during the attack, remember? We've been living here ever since, waiting for the fleet to arrive." Morrison realized that his wife had no idea what he had been through. To her, the evacuation had been successful. She had never experienced the months of grief and guilt that had driven him across the galaxy. "Are David and Susan with you?" Morrison asked. "Of course they are," Martha said. "They're right here. Do you want to talk to them?" Morrison's children appeared on the screen, both alive and healthy and happy to see their father. They had no idea that their father had spent months believing they were dead. They had no idea that he had led the largest military force in human history to avenge their deaths. After talking to his family for several minutes, Morrison cut the communication link and turned to face his crew. Everyone on the bridge was watching him, waiting for his decision. "What are you going to do, sir?" Captain Rodriguez asked. Morrison looked out at his massive fleet one more time. 900,000 ships full of people who had learned what it meant to be truly human. People who had put aside all their differences to work toward a common goal. "I'm going to do something I never thought I would do," Morrison said. "I'm going to give every person in this fleet a choice. They can stay here with their families and live in a perfect future. Or they can come back with me to our own time and help build that perfect future ourselves." Morrison opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. You have heard the truth about our mission. You know that our families are alive and that our enemy never existed. Now you must choose. You can stay here in this timeline.